For most of its history, Long Island was known as a home for potato and vegetable farmers. Not until the early 70s was it discovered that the microclimate of the region is very similar to some of the most famous winemaking regions in the world.
If you look at the east coast of the United States, we are one of the few pieces of geography that has water between it and the mainland. And so we are receiving weather patterns that are first traveling across water and then traveling across our land. Temperatures during the day are still fairly warm. However, the nighttime temperatures do get relatively cool. This is a positive ripening condition because it will provide adequate heat during the day for color and flavor development, but the cool temperatures at night retain the aromatic components of the vine and of the grapes, so that these are the conditions that the greatest wines in the world are ripening under.
The unique climate conditions inspired winemakers to take root on the north end of Long Island.
In 1973, the Hargrave family planted the first commercially successful vineyard on Long Island. Since that time, there have been additional companies planting vines, making wines. So at this point, we have almost 25 wineries on the east end of Long Island.
Growing grapes and making wine is not an exact science. That path toward excellence often goes through many frustrating attempts of trial and error.
It takes time to develop the region, so there was a time of learning which grape varieties would grow better and which grape varieties may not have been as well suited. So after about 25 years of this learning, we established this business in 1997. At that time, we had enough information to be able to identify that the varieties that had become well known in Bordeaux, that those varieties would also do well here. That is the main focus of this business at Raphael, in particular to grow Merlot, just simply because it has the most affinity for our soil and climate and our ripening conditions on the North Fork.
Owner and founder John Petrocelli used the winemaking experience of his family to develop Raphael into one of the most acclaimed wines in New York and the region.
The name Raphael was the name of the owner's father. John Petrocelli wanted to carry on the tradition that was begun in the family. And so the Raphael facility was built as a memorial to his father, Raphael Petrocelli, but also as a shrine to his family, something that will remain in the family for generations. The philosophy of the Raphael estate takes into account old world traditions and new world advances. It's based primarily on the premise that wine is grown and not made. The art and science of winemaking is an accumulation of knowledge over periods of time. Many things that we know about winemaking are still valid today. The use of sulfur inside barrels for sanitation, for example, is something we still use today. This was first started by the Egyptians. We at Raphael use a basket press, which is a wooden vertical slat style press, similar to the kind that anybody who made wine in the last 100 years has used. This is a technology that has not been improved upon for red wine production. Most importantly, we harvest our grapes the same way that the grapes have been harvested for centuries, and that is by hand. And we feel very strongly that the technique of hand harvesting has not been improved upon. by machine. The quality is maintained because the grapes are not damaged in any way before they're brought to the wine cellar. The hands are a very gentle tool, but most importantly, it's the brain of the person involved that is where the quality differences lie. A person who's looking at an individual cluster can determine whether or not that cluster is ripe or ripe enough. We're paying a great deal of attention to the ripeness of the fruit, waiting a very long time to harvest so that we are optimizing flavors and aromas in the fruit until the very, very last day. We are harvesting this fruit at dead ripeness, optimum ripeness. The grapes are initially detached from the stems and then placed into the stainless steel tanks for the fermentation. During the fermentation, the juice is released from the grapes. We pump over or pump around the juice over the skins to keep them mixed together so that we can extract and infuse all the qualities that are beneficial to make a red wine. Color, flavor, the aroma, and the other extractable components. From the production standpoint, there have been many, many advances. In fact, we are living in an age now where the quality of the wine that's available to us is better than ever, simply because almost all the regions of the world that are making wine have the same technology available now. The bottling process is probably after the harvesting, the second most important process during the winemaking year. This is a point where a great wine will either be captured in the bottle or can be easily ruined. So a lot of care is needed and preparation is needed to make sure everything is perfectly in place before we begin the bottling procedure. There was a lot of work that went into the label design for Raphael. The image on the front of the label is an illustration of the building that was created especially for the label. We also have included elements of Raphael, the artist, on the label, including the border, which was lifted from one of his Renaissance paintings. The signature itself is Raphael Petrocelli's, so there's a lot of very small detail that has a lot of personal meaning for the family and conveys an image of quality and class for the brand. The first vines were planted in 1997. The first wine was produced in 1999, and we look forward to many, many years of production of great wines at Raphael, and we think the wines that we're making in the future will be something to look forward to.